You're listening to the Money Dad Podcast, practical financial and business conversation from a dad who knows money. I'm April Adams, and please welcome my dad, the Money Dad, Robert Adams. You know, in our last conversations, or our conversations about budgeting, which has been, we've talked about budgeting every single episode. We forgot two really important ones. Christmas, and then, what was the other one? I forgot the other one.
The other one is your vacation.
Oh, yes, vacation. I've never had to pay for one of those.
I don't even know how to comment on that, April. Well, Christmas and vacation are two things that people will spend money on, and they always leave them out of their budget. And when they leave them out of their budget and they still go and continue on those two journeys, then the first thing they do is pull out the credit card.
That credit card.
And everything starts going on the credit card. So what I'd like to do now is talk a little bit about the credit card. But as a reminder, when you are doing your budget, please put in your Christmas and please put in your vacation time, because there's a lot of danger on the credit card side. A little side note is some companies, mostly the smaller companies, will allow you to take out so much money even out of your check, just like you do with a 401k or any other deduction that you have. And we used to call it, in two of the companies that I was involved with, we called it a Christmas club. And money was taken out every week and just kept in the company. And at the 1st of December, then whatever you had accumulated, then we wrote you one big check back. So that's an idea that if your company's probably a smaller one, most larger ones won't do it, but if your company is small, then you can ask your employer to maybe help you set that up. So you can actually put so much money a week back. But let's go on to the credit card.
Well, hold on. I got questions about Christmas before we get into the credit card. How do we do Christmas on a budget? It's tough because you want to get everybody something. You don't, and if somebody gets you something, then you feel like you got to get them something, and you can end up in this really downward spiral of indebtedness to other people.
Well, everything you just mentioned is all emotion.
I know.
And we have talked before about you just got to remove the emotions.
But it's hard to remove the emotion from Christmas.
It's very hard to remove the emotion from Christmas, but when you don't have any money, the emotion will be a bad emotion once you finish spending all that money that you don't have. So it's something that you have to consider. If you got family that you want to buy for, it's just like budgeting. Let's pull out the awful B word again. I have April, I have Michael, I have Mama, I have cousin, I have sister, I have brother, I have. Then when you add it up, multiply it by how much you want to spend on each one, and then you'll just about see what you probably can't spend for Christmas. So if you have the money, then spend it and enjoy it. I was taught, again, we've spoken before about back in the day. And my father knew that we were not in a position to go out and buy for everybody. And there were people that bought for us, and they would bring us things by. And he said, the only thing that you can do, Robert, is genuinely say thank you. And tell them that you really appreciate them thinking about you. One thing that really bothers me a lot today, April, is that so many people give expecting something back.
Yeah.
And that is that's a character flaw in my opinion. If I want to buy someone something for Christmas, that's because I want to buy them something for Christmas. Not that I expect them to buy me something back. So if you put all these things together and prepare for it and find out there's no way, do what you can. And then the other thing, I know what people are looking at is, well, I was only able to spend $25. I was only able to spend $50. And it does make you feel inadequate at times. But when people see that you really care about them and you have done the best that you can do, that is all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Because whenever you spend that money, and if you want to spend all the money that you think you need to spend, then it's really going to hit you in the face come January the 31st when you're sitting there looking at that big credit card bill.
Mm-hmm. When you can make gifts, you can come up with creative things. I never turned down a baked good.
You know, I love to eat. That's why I've gained 80 pounds since I've been married. It's because I love to eat. So if you can't buy somebody something, go make them something. And let them know that you care about them and that you wanted to give them a little something because you did care about them. Mm-hmm. Not because you expect anything back and so forth. I mean, I don't want to wear that out, but that's really what it's... Christmas is about giving, not about receiving. Mm-hmm. And that's where a lot of people miss.
Well, if you say that, they say, I want to give, but I don't have the money to give.
Well, just what we just talked about. You limit it to what you can do. Yeah. And you do the best that you can with what you can. And be proud of it. Don't feel like that you're a lesser person because you just didn't have a fat wallet, but just do the best that you can. Because one of the things that I want to share next, I brought one of my credit card statements, April, to talk about these things. So most credit cards have a high interest rate. Mm-hmm. And some credit cards have no interest. And when you keep buying and keep buying and keep buying, let's just look at my credit card statement here. And we'll talk about some credit cards too. I have Capital One Venture Card. I wanted a Venture Card because part of the things you can do with a credit card is to earn rewards. And every time you buy something with the Capital One Venture Card, you double your points. But the purpose of this is for air miles. I don't want people to get into the habit of just purchasing things on their credit card that they can't afford. In other words, if you cannot pay that credit card off at the end of the month, you cannot afford it. But if you use that money, the things I started out talking about, I should have clarified it before I started mentioning it. If you use the credit instead of using it to borrow, then it can become an advantage for you. And just like I got ahead of myself, I was talking about rewards and so forth. That's one side of it. Now let me tell you about the other side. I'm sitting here looking at my credit card statement, and last month I spent $3,757 on some business items and things I needed that I do get reimbursed for. But the point I want to make is when I look down at the bottom, it says your minimum payment due is $37. Well, they made it real clear on my credit card statement that if I was to pay the minimum due on $3,757, how long do you think it would take to pay down that little $37.57?
Decades.
How about 4 of them? 41 years.
That's my entire lifetime.
That's right. You're 41.
Yeah.
So if I would have borrowed $3,757 at 19.74% interest back 41 years ago, I would just now have that $3,757 paid for.
Oh my goodness.
Now the next thing it shows on here is, let's just bump up the payment a little bit to $139 a month. That would take 3 years. So if you have a credit card and you don't have 0% interest, it's going to run anywhere between 15 and 19%. And you say, well, Robert, why in the world would you have a credit card that charges 19.74% interest? Is because when you use a credit card, not borrow from a credit card, but use one, you have what they call a grace period. As long as you pay off that entire balance, by the end of the month, you owe no interest. And that's what I mean by using credit. So it doesn't matter if my interest rate is 20.74 or 33% or 69%.
As long as you pay it off.
As long as you pay it off at the end of the month. So a credit card can be great for helping you accumulate some points. So let's kind of parlay that back to Christmas. If you were steady, put your bills on a credit card, paid it off at the end of the month instead of paying things online or paying them by apps, but you did everything through a credit card, and you start accumulating some of these points, then you can use the benefits and the rewards of that credit card to actually purchase Christmas presents. There are food cards for your favorite restaurant. There are merchandise cards. There are your 2 strong local hardware stores that you can go to and get gift cards there. So if you were to use your credit card during the year, you then could see how much you have accumulated in your points, and then you could use those points to actually purchase Christmas presents.
Yeah, and some just give you cash back. So I take mine and just cover expenses.
And you're exactly right. I mean, sometimes you can just get the money back off of them. I have looked at both of those, and my bigger value has normally come, believe it or not, in the merchandise instead of the cash back. But that is another thing you can do.
Gift cards.
And then so you sitting here saying, well, Robert, you tell me not to use a credit card, but then you tell me to use a credit card. And I'm telling you to be disciplined. I'm telling you, use the brain that God give you. And if you know that you can keep up with it, if you know that you can make your normal purchases with it, and you know that you can pay it off as if you were just paying for that purchase as you go, then the credit card can be something of value for you.
Yeah, credit's not evil. It's just if you treat your debit or your credit card like a debit card and keep up with your statements, consider that money coming out of your account, then it's pretty simple to keep up with and follow.
It's not evil, but it does require discipline. A lot of problem with just life itself requires discipline, but especially in the credit card arena.
Did you want to talk a little bit too about, you mentioned the advantages of certain types of point redemption, and I didn't know if that's something you wanted to go more in detail of why some might be better.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. That's our producer, Zach, and he has contributed to our podcast, and we're so thankful for that. But this one I have right here is a Capital One Venture card, and I'm not advertising for Capital One.
Yeah, they're not giving us any money.
yet.
Call us if you
We're
want.
we're not advertising yet. But Capital
Leave
One,
your name out until you pay us.
if anybody listens out there and you want to donate, we'd be more than happy to take it. So with this one, I wanted to accumulate air miles. And this particular card is set up that every time I purchase something with it, it pays 2 times the points. And without getting too much detail, there's other specials out there when you go online or promotions. Like I saw something at Walmart that if I was to go take this card and tap the button that I want to be in this little program for about the next 30 days, everything that I buy at Walmart would be 4 times the points. Mm-hmm. So there's little promotions where your points keep building up. So looking at my credit card here, I now have 554,302 points. Now, I can tell you what you can get with 500,000 points because I have done it before.
Mm-hmm. What does it get you?
Well, my brother had never been to a football game in Dallas, and he loved the Dallas Cowboys. And he had a grandson that he wanted to take on a trip. And I wanted to take my son. So my 500,000 points.
Actually, I was asked to go, and I gave it to my brother.
Well, if you had not given it to your brother and you would have gone, then we would have had to add a little money to the points for you to be able to make that trip.
It's true. I would have needed my own hotel room.
Don't y'all feel sorry for me, whoever listens to this?
No.
Sometimes.
No. Only Zach. Zach will sympathize with you.
Sometimes.
Well, here was the cool thing. We were able to make that trip, and all 4 of us sat on row 1 on our favorite airline in first class and was able to enjoy the trip back and forth to Dallas in first class. And it absolutely cost me $0. So those are just some of the things you can do. I have another credit card that I use for travel also, and it accumulates points for merchandise and other items that I use it for. So what you're hearing me say is that I've practiced enough, I'm disciplined enough to make sure that I don't borrow on these credit cards, but to be able to use that credit and take some of the advantages, for my benefit.
Now, I do want to go back because we've been talking about emotion. Okay, and so the story you told about taking your brother does have more emotion to it than you even have described, because the thing he didn't tell you is he had cancer, and not too long after that trip he passed away. So it was your opportunity to have that last trip. But kind of the point I want to make, though, is we say so much like pull emotion out of your spending and all this whenever you're having to tighten up. But the thing that discipline will get you is you get the luxury of being able to indulge in your emotions later. I think to be able to do those things that can make you feel better and that can create those memories.
That is a wonderful, wonderful point, April. To be able, when we first started, you were talking about wanting to buy for everybody and couldn't buy for everybody. And the credit card is not the absolute solution, but there are things with credit cards, as long as they are used properly, that you can get merchandise, dining, air miles to be able to relieve some of that emotional stress of the things that you can't do.
Yeah.
But be very, very careful that you don't borrow from that credit card,
Yeah.
or you will have the ultimate emotional stress.
Yeah, and I think this conversation goes back to what we were talking about with telling your kids, instead of saying like, we just can't afford this. Instead, it's we can't afford this right now, but we are working to be able to afford it. So maybe this Christmas you don't have a large amount of money to spend on the people you love, and so you put in whatever you can, but you being disciplined enough now will allow you to do more things in the future.
That is absolutely right, and you could not have said it any better. And that's the same way with budgeting, to make sure you don't overspend, because we started out this whole podcast with the first episode of spiraling in debt. And if you're spiraling in debt and you can't get out of it, you will always be in a constant depression. Mm-hmm. And I understand it, been there, done that. And you have to make those hard choices sometime to be able to not have that constant emotional, financial stress. It takes a lot of discipline. And as I'm sitting here talking about these credit cards, I can hear probably some of the true MBA people talking about, oh no, you don't want to tell people that. They're going to go get in trouble and they're going to destroy their lives. Well, we've been very clear. If you use it properly, it can be a tool. Mm-hmm. If you use it improperly, it can destroy your life for a period of time. But anything that happens in the financial world, if you totally screw things up and you have one of those uh-oh moments, you still can overcome it. But one of the things that we have talked about, our goal with this podcast is to try to encourage people, to try to help people, try to point people in the right direction so that they don't continue to be in that spiral.
Mm-hmm. So think of it as the work that you're putting in now will benefit your future self. So you know how whenever you fail to do things because maybe you're lazy, like I didn't put up the laundry or didn't clean the dishes, and I say, oh, I'm just going to lay on the couch tonight, I'll do that tomorrow. And you get to it tomorrow and you say, man, I'm really mad at past me for not taking care of that.
Amen.
So do future you a favor and work on it now, as discouraging as it might be.
Amen. You in the business world, there's a saying that I have heard spoken a couple times, and that is revenue or earnings, it's vanity. Profit, hey, it's sanity. But the third thing, cash is king.
Yeah.
You can have receivables and revenue all day long. You can have some profits on paper, but if you don't collect them, I'm gonna chase a rabbit here a minute. I was telling one of my clients the other day, I said, you know what really dawned on me after all these years is when you go down your accounts receivable list and you look at all the people that owe you money, your book's over here showing you may have made $1 million, but you have $750,000 in accounts receivable. So you just loaned about 12 or 15 people $750,000 that you don't even really know. And you hope that they're going to pay you back, because if they don't, you subtract that $750 from that $1 million and you only made $250,000. Mm-hmm. So it kind of correlates to make sure that cash is king, that you want to continue good practices, do the things you need to do to stay out of debt as much as possible, and to be able to accumulate cash so you can do some of these things that you talked about and be able to give.
Someone told me around the age of 17 or 18, heard some radio host, don't even touch a credit card. And I listened to that for a solid 16 years and only used debit cards And looking back at over a decade of my life of how many points I could have gotten with the exact same spending habits that I had, but if I had used the credit card instead of using the debit card.
And then instead of borrowing against it too, one thing I will say is when you're already in the hole and you're trying to get out of the hole, and all of a sudden the knowledge becomes available to you, the light bulb comes on, and then you sitting there with that oh crap moment. Now what do we do? And I was talking about if you paid a minimum payment on this thing, it'll take you 41 years. Sometimes when you are in a bad situation, you have to pay the minimum payment because you don't have the cash flow to do anything else. But one thing for sure, if you put things into place, do your budget, keep up with it, choose the right things to do with your money, then you don't have to pay the $37 for 41 years.
Yeah.
You know, you can that'll help you get out of that bad habit and the bad situation that you're in.
Let me add one more thing about credit cards. Well, a couple things, but they kind of coincide. I've had my identity stolen I don't know how many times. I've lost track. But I can tell you, the first time somebody got hold of my cards, I think I was in college, and I was mostly using a debit card, and they took that debit card, cleaned out my bank account. I did eventually get that money back, but it was harder. Whenever somebody, and it's funny how their fraud detection is. Like, it's like the credit card company knows me better than I know myself. I will get a text from something random and say, "Did you mean to spend this?" Usually it's no. And so then I know I'm about to have to get a new credit card. But they catch it, and anything that's spent, they have all those safeguards, so I don't have to pay for it. So that's one good thing. But I can also tell you that you need a credit card for certain things, because I went on a trip during the time somebody had stolen my credit card number, and so the credit card had been cut off, and they were sending me a new one, but I had to leave for that trip before I got my new card. So I was having to work off of debit cards. I almost was not able to rent a car because of it, and we finally got it worked out, but they almost would not even let me get that car off of a debit card.
To your point, the credit card, if there's ever fraud, you have probably 100% chance of getting your money back.
Mm-hmm.
With the bank, unfortunately, you don't have 100% chance. And whenever you are making certain types of purchases online, I will say, I guess we're just kind of talking in broad finance here, but I would have another bank account with a minimum balance that if you can keep $100 in it and only put enough money in there to do the things that you want to do online. Because if
you're not using a credit card, right?
That's right. If you're not using a credit card and you have to pay something, they want money to come out of your debit card account. You want to have another account that doesn't have any money in it. And then when you go make that purchase, at least you have limited the exposure of what someone can steal from you. Because if you bust your butt and go through all these things that we've laid out, and all of a sudden you're starting to accumulate that emergency fund, and you got $5,000 sitting in your emergency fund, you sure don't want to use that bank account to do certain things online, because if they get your $5,000, that would really hurt.
Yeah, and I think that's a good word to end it on for this one. So we've covered the credit cards, and I just want to make a note to anyone listening too, just a couple of housekeeping items for us. If you are enjoying this podcast, it would do us a great deal of favor if you would rate it and give us some good stars on Apple Podcast. I think Spotify's got their ratings, all that stuff. And just share it with anyone that you think could benefit from it. And if you have a question or a comment, you can go to our website, themoneydadpodcast.com, and send that in. And we'd love to address those things and help you out with them.
And then a preview for the next episode is we're going to talk about how to start credit if you don't have any, and how to rebuild your credit if you have terrible credit. And some of that, unfortunately for some people, unfortunately for others, involves a credit card.
Thanks for listening to the Money Dad Podcast. Head on over to our website, themoneydadpodcast.com, for more resources and to send in any questions that you might have. Do your homework, and we'll see you next time.